Hey, this is Bob, and you're watching Passionate Bob Devotional on YouTube. You can call me at 213-713-8954, 8954 greenatt.net, or on the Twitter, Mr. Bob at BobBob8954. Today's word is frame. Well, the word frame has a lot of meanings. When I was going east here, well, actually west on the 10 freeway, I looked over and they have a lot of framing going on. They're framing in for these concrete pours that they're doing, and but you think of the word, someone was framed. They were framed, and you've seen all the classic stories that show you that, hey, you know, unless you see it, taste it, feel it yourself, it's kind of like, well, you know, people can always do things to make stuff happen that really kind of like a magic trick, you know. He took the whole Eiffel Tower and he put it in his pocket. I saw it. You know, and sure, it looks like he did, and it looks like the Eiffel Tower's not there, but it's just all an illusion. And you know, but when we frame something in for like a concrete pour, when I was a kid, you know, the freeways, they were just, you know, they had daisies in the middle where they buried the people that died, and that was it. It was just like an open highway. There was no barrier, concrete reinforced barrier. There was no K-rail. There was no guardrail. There was no, you know, cyclone fence with a cable going through it. There was no plain cyclone fence. There was no nothing. It was just open. Look at some of the postcards from the Harbor Freeway. You know, when they first built the freeway, there was nothing. They had no protection between the lanes. They just figured this is a free road. It's a freeway, free of stops, and it's free of you know, interruptions, and people will just drive. And you know, nobody else had ever heard of having a fence in the middle of a road. I mean, that'd be, what are you trying to tell you? You don't need to have to do that. You know, put the hand on the wheel and drive the car. That's all you need to do, mister. You know, every once in a while it might be an accident, but that's pretty rare occurrence, and so they had no reason. But now they keep updating the ante, and I told you how it went. It used to be just grass and flowers. Then they went to a chain link fence. Well, we'll put a little chain link in there. That'll show them, you know, you stay on this side. Well, then people, they're like butter, you know, right through the chain link fence. Well, we know how to do that. What we'll do is we'll put a cable. You know, they put this cable through the fence, and that cable, in case they get a little excited, you know, we'll put the little. That'll fix their wagons. Well, that didn't work, so then they went with the guardrail. And they had guardrails before, like in mountain peaks, but put the guardrail in the middle. Well, people, you know, I'll make it through there. So then, you know, in the 70s, I think it was the early 70s, they came up with this idea of the K-rail. You know, had that kind of a shape to it, like a K, like special K. And but they found out with these K-rails that people up and they go right back into traffic and they cause more damage. You know, because it throws them right back into the lane. That was nice. They didn't want to go over that way. The problem is it threw them back this way, which makes them want to, you know, makes them have an accident. So it's that wasn't necessary. So now the current thinking, today, right now, is that you put up, you know, just a straight wall that's angled. No curve to it, no way for the wheel to come up. It's almost like they had rolled curb. You know, these K-rails, if you look at them, they're like a rolled curb. That was the other thing they had when they first built the freeways. They had the rolled curb. It was like I remember being in the 1950s, and I remember that they thought there was the most amazing thing to put in rolled curbs. And you can see them on the freeways time and again. You go to a real old freeway, you have that. You can just drive right up on the curb. Just drive right up, and it's just as smooth as can be, and doesn't stop a thing. You can roll right up, roll down. It's kind of fun. And of course, when they updated the Pasadena freeway, they call it the Arroyo Parkway freeway, they got rid of all the rolled curbs, and people were kind of, but it was really better to have just a nice flat surface and get those you know, new medians in. But we're talking about forming, and or framing, the framing for pouring concrete. Well, we have to be framed. And what is our frame? Now, they again, going back to years ago, right here on the side here, I'm looking, and I wish you could see it. You really can't see it. It's not very, but on this particular stretch of the highway, this median is super, super tall. It's probably 5 feet tall, this median, maybe 6 feet tall, but it looks like it's all stones. Maybe I'm going real slow right now. Can you see that? See, they framed it with stones in there. Isn't that amazing? So there you go. You got the stones in the middle of the, so it's not just a concrete median. It's really beautiful. And on these brick walls on the other side, they put patterns in them. And if you go down some of these newer freeways, it's amazing. They have and then on some of the hillsides, they framed it into where it looks like actual granite, like they cut into the rock, and it looks really, really super cool. It's real dark, and it looks very natural, we didn't interrupt nature, because of course when you put a freeway over the mountains, they just cut the mountains off, and they kind of grade them down. And on the Pasadena freeway again, they just literally, they got about 10 feet between the height and the depth, and it just comes down, and somehow that was okay all those years, and of course the Pasadena freeway is like this narrow. So very, very narrow. I just want to say to you kindly that I'm trying to make up my mind here whether I should go to the fast track, but I don't think I can go to fast track yet. They haven't got a fast track lane here yet. So framing. Think of being framed. I talked about that a minute ago. That's a different kind of frame. A picture frame is a kind of a frame. You put your whole life within a frame of context, a frame of beauty. And the way that they frame these things up, they have certain things in mind. The Bible talks about how we are the clay and He is the potter, and how important it is that we, as believers, as people, we need to allow God to work with us as clay. If we're stubborn, if we're like the guy who's trying to go against the pricks, against the sticks, and he's fighting everything. If you're fighting all the time, it seems like everything is going the wrong way, then I think it's time to examine, what are you doing? Where are you going? I was not very happy about the idea of letting go of the historic Casa del Green camp above the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. I was not very excited about that. I didn't want to do that. That was not in my framework. That was not in my mental capacity. I've spent, nearly 20 years making the historic Casa del Green what it is. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's awesome, and I don't want to let go. It's for my kids, and it's for eternity, and it's. Well, times change, and of course, I was not very wise years ago. I did not do the right thing. I signed off on the deal to add a lot of debt to the property. We were living the high life, just charge it, buying expensive $10,000 items, on the spot. Just, we're just gonna buy this stuff right here on the spot. We're just gonna get it done. And that's all real sweet and nice, but the problem is that we didn't have the funds to do all that. So eventually it was agreed in the team meeting that, you hear commercials about it right now, your house is your bank. Just take out and so we just continued to pull, and as it turned out, we that's about right. We pulled out the equity out of the house, so much so that now a house that cost $325,000 about, is now I owe about 670. I have it written down here. Let's see where I wrote it down. I wrote it down here somewhere. All right. I owe $680,000. $680,999. You know, I owe that much. So that's a lot of money to owe for a house that I only paid $300 for.
In 2 miles.
Keep left on San Bernardino Freeway West.
It's like bizarre. It's like so. I had to change my framework. I had to change my way of thinking. I had to be able to know that God is working in my life. I have framed my life with people that I love. I have framed my life with people that I love and trust. I framed my life with God's Word. My brother Tim is a significant pillar in my life. I've got women and men in my life that help me. When I first got the notice from the mortgage company that they were going to come around and they were going to raise up my mortgage by $1,400, I was just weeping. And I remember my brother said, "No, Bob, we're going to keep that. We're going to keep that. It's going to happen, Bob." But then, as it turned out, I'm looking at it, and even with all the campers that are being very generous and staying with the Casa del Green, even with everything that I'm doing, it's not a losing battle, but it's not a very good battle to be. I don't want to be fighting the battle. The Lord has changed my frame of mind. Ha! How about that?
Keep left on San Bernardino
Freeway West.
My frame of mind has been changed to where now I'm thinking, it would be nice not to have to.
In 11 miles.
Continue on Arcadia Street.
Property taxes. I mean, I've got to save up every year. I've got to save like a scrimper, and for the property taxes. Every month I've got to pay $400 or more for the utilities. Every month I've got to pay. That's just for the basic utilities. That doesn't count the gas. And then every couple months I've got to interview more campers and go and interview, and I've got to take care. And then the Casa del Green needs to have a roof, and the gate is acting weird, and there's always issues with trees and plants, and I've got to organize and clean. And so my frame of mind has changed now. And I had someone write to me, and they said, "Gee, we want to keep the place and all." And I'm like, you know what? I really do like my location above the Rose Bowl. I like all that. But my frame of mind is that I'm old. I'm retiring. I'm basically retired. But I don't get to enjoy much retirement. And I have an example in one of my family members who is up in the 80s, and they haven't planned well, and they're working constantly. This person just never stops working. They're working right now, working. And my family is telling me, "Mr. Bob, spend time with us. Make us remember the tattoo from yesterday? And what was the tattoo going to say? I'm not getting a tattoo, but if I got a tattoo, it'd say, "I ain't got time. I don't have the time. But I'll make time for you." So that's what this is. This is making time for my family so that I'm not so busy about making money and about working all the time. If I let go of the Casa del Green, I won't have any of that, and I'll be able to save up, and then my family and I will buy a new home, a new place that'll be reasonable, and the framework of our lives will be changed. Well, I pray today that whatever the framework for you, whatever God's pouring into your life, however it's going to be expressed, that you would be blessed. I pray that you would plead. You don't have to plead, but that you would pour yourself out to God and trust God that God is going to give you the desires of your heart. He will give us abundantly above all that we could ask or think. We never would have dreamed, back in the 50s, of the freeways of today. They're amazing. So God bless you. I'll talk to you soon. Want to call me? Try 213-713-8954. Remember, this is Bob coming to you live from the 10 going westbound. Yeah.